to our guest, a Canadian gospel inspirational artist who shared how her music intertwines with mental well being on the Think Different podcast. She brought a unique perspective on the healing power of music and its impact on our own mental health. Okay, so welcome. I have great pleasure to have you featured on the Think Different podcast. I've listened to your music and it sounds awesome. I really enjoy your lyrics. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So am I also. So, what inspires you to create uplifting music, and how do you hope that your music impacts on listeners emotionally and mentally?
That is such a good question. I think for myself, I have grown up on so many different styles of music, but I think the music that made me feel the best, the safest, the most secure, the most excited was always songs that had an uplifting undercurrent. We all just need a little bit of like breakup, cry in the car, sad songs every so
Yes,
often. But it's the uplifting messages, whether it's, Christian or secular even, that propelled me as a young child and then up until today. And I just think there's not enough of it, especially today. You'll find some of my new stuff coming out does have some more serious tones in it a little bit. But the theme remains uplifting. There's always hope in every song. So I would say that that would probably, be the number one reason why I find the uplifting message of the music that I write and create so important. And I plan to keep it up.
and that's really good because a lot of persons need it now because we notice that there has been a crisis in terms of people's mental space. And I think COVID, plays a lot in people really going through anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I think
Yeah.
music is so powerful. I mean, you've heard of people that, and maybe you're one of those people, and if so, I think you're so awesome, even more awesome.
Thank
You've
you.
heard of the people that listen to m- like music that doesn't have words. I'm trying to like instrumental music,
Right.
and
Yeah.
how it helps them to concentrate and it helps them to, do tasks and stuff like that. Like I have some really good friends that love classical music. No words, just throw on classical music while they're studying, while they're working, while they're doing something really concentrated, and they say that it really helps their minds like sort of hone in on what they're doing. And so we see and understand the power that just the audio waves of music actually has. So when you put a message with that, I think it's really important that you're aware of what you're listening to and putting into your mind because it will 100% affect everything that you do. If you're listening to really sad, depressing music, don't be surprised if you're having a really hard time getting out of that rut or that, like,
That's true.
depressive or anxious state. And the same could be said, like, if you're always listening to really uplifting messages, and you've kind of got it going on in your mind all the time, it's hard to be sad. It's hard to be down in the dumps. So I think that is true for all kinds of music, no matter whether it's, Christian or inspirational music or whether it's just, secular music and listening to something that has a really positive sort of vibe or energy to it.
That's true. I think it does really give you a momentum.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Can you share a specific song or project that holds a personal significance to you in terms of spreading positivity, and what message were you aiming to convey?
Hmm. Are you talking my own music or music that I listen to?
Your own music.
My own music. Let's see. I would say the project I have coming out is probably, actually, no, it is 100% one of my favorite projects I have ever created, ever. Hands down. And I think a lot of it has to do with
Mhm.
I finally felt within myself the bravery and the courage to step outside of the box that I had been putting myself in for so long. I would tell myself like I had to write music that would be able to be sung at church. I had to write a worship style music that was, fit for a church choir or, something that had a little bit of a gospel flair to it, which I love that kind of music. I love listening to it and I love making it. But it didn't feel true to the season that I was in creatively, if that makes any
Right.
sense. And so I just kind of I sat down and I, penciled some concept ideas, and a lot of them were really sassy, and they had just some themes that were really, really strong, but like nothing I've ever made before.
Oh,
And
wow.
the project kept rolling and getting created, and all the little fine elements were interwoven into this thing. I was just like, oh my gosh, this project is so cool. Like, it's
Yeah.
so fun, it's so sassy, it has the gospel flair sort of in the background. There's some jazz, there's some rock. It's kind of just this compilation of everything that I love about music and that uplifting message that you were just mentioning.
Right. Which is really
On
good.
this project. Yeah, and it has all these like, what do you call it? Sort of there's just a lot of crossover happening in it. Like it's all
A certain
inspirational.
level of diversity to everything, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of salt and pepper shakers just kind of going at her. It's really
Yeah.
cool. So fun.
The
So
creative
yeah, I would have
spice.
to, and you'll all have to wait to hear it. But my I do have the first single dropping on March 22nd. So that will be really cool. It's called No Place Here, and it is so full of attitude, and I cannot
Oh,
wait.
wow. I can't wait to hear it. It sounds really good so far. Okay, that's good. I'm looking out. I have my ears out waiting to listen to it. And I'm sure
Love
it's gonna be good because as I said before, I've listened to your songs, I've seen the imagery, the visuals are really good, and it just gives you this calmness,
mm.
and I was like, this is really, really good. Like I was really sorry that I didn't come across your music from before.
Oh, thank you so much. That means the world to
You're
me. I
most
have been doing
welcome.
a little bit more like sad pop style. I call it sad pop because that's literally the genre name. There's nothing sad
Right.
about the songs that I'm, singing, but it's just I knew for myself, people that I'm surrounded by who are sort of in the middle of like deconstructing their faith right now, and it's just been something I've been walking with them through.
That's true.
They have a lot of I don't know if you want to call it trauma because that's a word that kind of just gets thrown around without a lot of depth to what it really means, but
Yeah.
I have a lot of really bad memories growing up of, church people and church situations, and they're attached to these songs that were in the late 90s and early 2000s. And so I just decided that I would breathe some new life into these songs. And you're right, that calmness, it's something that I really am trying to put into every song that I am sort of just throwing out on Instagram right now, these covers,
Right.
because I think it's important that the people that do suffer from the trauma and just the really bad, hard memories from their childhood, those songs should never have been part of that trauma because the messages were still so good and God was
Yes.
still worthy to be sung about. So, just breathing new life into things that have been around for several years, but that maybe have a little bit of a label associated, due to just some experiences from the past.
Understood. That's understandable.
Yeah.
How do you navigate the creative process to ensure your music is not only uplifting to others, but also contribute to your own emotional and mental well-being?
Ooh, I think that the key is to just being vulnerable in the creative process. I think it's about going into a co-write and being like, okay, this is me being vulnerable and transparent and being like, listen, like I've been suicidal. I've been in the place where you are totally scraping the bottom of the barrel and everything around you feels so heavy and so dark, and I've grieved and I've lost and I've held hands with people who have grieved and I've held hands with people who have tried to take their own lives. Like you bring
Oh,
those experiences and those feelings into the creative process and then you kind of just marry them. You're like, okay, how can I relay that feeling of comfort? I'm with you while you go through this. I'm holding you up while you kick fear to the door. Like we've got this. We're going to walk through this together. Convey that through not just the words, but through the melody as well. And there is science behind, the majors and the minors and what you hear in a song and sort of how it emotionally impacts your state of being. So I'm trying to kind of capitalize on that and make sure that the message is coming through, not just like I said, the words, but also through like the harmonics that are behind the words, which is it's this whole thing.
right.
And it's something that comes pretty naturally to me because I'm a big feeler, you know, I can feel the way that the song is going. And the producer that I work with and the studio I work with, they are also feelers, and so they're like, this feels really good, or this needs to change based on like the way that it feels right now. So yeah, I think it's important to just be vulnerable and to bring that into every part of the creative process, bring your experiences, and then just kind of let them speak for themselves.
True, that's true. And that's really good because you don't have to do much
Mhm.
because your work, your material actually resonates with persons.
Yeah, well, that's the goal, you know. You don't want to be putting out something that is just going to be surface level. And I mean, at least I don't. People can do that all day. But for me, I just think what I'm doing right now, it's not just a expensive hobby, which I mean, it is that, but
Yeah.
it's a ministry. And if you really want to reach people with the gospel, it looks like walking beside people in their grief and holding their hands and rejoicing with them and just kind of getting down and dirty with them when they need to, you know,
True.
just feel their feelings. Like that's okay. And I think it's welcomed, and I think we need to do a little bit more of that as songwriters because the songs that are out there sometimes can feel really surface level. Like I get, you know, I
Yeah.
said I'm a feeler, so I feel it out. And I'm just like, there has to be a more impactful way to say this, you know, or there has to be a way that we can take this theme, you know, that is very familiar to all of us, like, you know, for example, the grace of God. Okay, well, there's 1,000 songs, or I don't even know, 100,000 songs out there about the grace of God. What's a
Yeah.
fresh way to say that that meets that listener where they are? You know, that's the most important part. And that's why I said, like, it's such a ministry. It's so much more than just this gig that I'm trying to do on the side and this, like, I'm not trying to build fame or get on platforms. And, like, in fact, the opposite is true, really. I'm terrified of performing. So there's that. But
Really?
just being able to, absolutely,
You look
I
so
get nauseous.
confident.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's
No, I
hard to
choke.
say that you do feel that way.
Oh no, girl, I literally get nauseous
Oh, wow.
and I choke. I'm working on it. I'm really working on it. Like leading worship is something I could do until the cows come home. I'm so confident in just that space because I'm pointing people to the Lord. Like I'm not
Right.
drawing attention to myself. But when it comes to like performing my own songs and like that element of showcasing what I've made, like I'm just like I could puke right now, and I probably will if I don't get off the stage
Oh,
right
Lord. But what you
now.
think caused that though? How you managed to actually separate yourself from just one character to the next character?
Oh, that's a question I probably don't have the answer to. I'm still working that out. I'm just trying to
Okay.
figure out a way, and like I'd mentioned it already a few times, just to this is a ministry for me.
Right.
So, you know, how could I lead worship in my own songs? The ones that I have sort of earlier on are a little easier to lead because they do come from this place of like trying to be sung in a church, so it feels a little bit more worship leady kind of. It's easier to sing. Um,
Yeah.
but the songs that I have coming out, I don't really know what the plan is for those, like in terms of performing and touring, because that I don't know. I love to do a tour just for like the ministry aspect and getting to meet people and pray with people and just get to walk with people through those things that, you know, that we've all gone through. But I really just have to get over the performing thing. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I like a part of me says it's fear and you don't need to be fearful. Another part of me is like, oh well, Lenny, you've got some like past experiences that have been really terrible in terms of performing. And you know,
Oh,
when I was little, well, not that little, when I was like 13 or 12 or something, our school did a talent show and
yeah.
I love to sing. So I was like, oh man, of course I'm going to be in the talent show. I love it. It's just fun. It's, you know, and I'll be honest and say, like, I wasn't the best singer. I just love to sing, you know, and that's a fair statement.
Right.
Um, and so these girls that were in my class that were also the MC of the whole talent show, they turned my microphone off. And because back then
Wow.
we didn't have like monitors or anything, I just kind of assumed that it was projecting to the crowd because I didn't hear anything and I thought that was normal. No, it turns out my microphone was off and they told me to turn it on, but they were actually telling me to turn it off. And it was just this whole thing. And I think about that almost every time I perform. And I'm just like, this situation from a million years ago has such a chokehold on me that it literally
Yeah,
affects me now.
it is fair. It is a form of trauma because it's not something that you actually got over or you actually heal from that type of experience. And I
Mm.
think probably if you work on it and probably, you know, face it,
Oh,
then, you know, you can make a one step to actually not having a problem performing.
oh man, that inspires me. I think
But
all
it's a journey. It's a
right.
journey.
Totally,
You just have to
totally.
take your time.
Yeah, that's so good.
In a world that can sometimes be challenging, how
Mhm.
do you see the role of uplifting music and in fostering resilience and positive mindsets among audience?
Well, I think first and foremost, no matter what you listen to or sing in the car, whatever that looks like for people, I think whether you believe what you're listening to or singing along to or not, it's impacting you. And I have already sort of kind of mentioned that, the scientific basis for how music impacts a brain. Like that's a whole thing, like a side podcast. We can go into that another time. But
Yeah,
um I think when you give people something to believe in, regardless of whether or not they understand that your songs are going into their brains and, chemically and neurologically making some adjustments up there, um, you have to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable for what people are putting in their minds. So I take that really seriously. And I just want people to listen to my music, to, blast it in the car, roll down the windows, sing at the top of their lungs, whatever the season may be for
yeah,
them, cry in their car at school drop off. Like there's options in this new project that have a little bit of everything for your emotions. But
yeah.
no matter the person's ability to really, capture exactly what's being said and sung, I pray that the words that are being said, that they come from a place of, you know, I want to say like good ground. They come from
Right.
a really honest space with the Lord and from time spent with the Lord, and that it will impact them whether they understand it or not. So I think the key is to just, as someone that is a Christian and spiritual artist like myself, I think spending time with God is one of the most important parts of this ministry because it does overflow into everything that I do and everything that I put out. So, yeah, I think that kind of in a roundabout way answers your question.
Yes. And I like that. I do admire that you aim to do that, to actually connect with people emotionally and not just, you know, I want to put my music out there. I just want to get it out there type of thing.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned earlier, and to have just the project being surfaced and not actually resonating with people.
Yeah, I think there is a drive to put out music on all fronts. Like, and people can make music and put it out so easily now.
That's
And
true.
so your project, your song, whatever you're putting out, you're literally fighting with 60,000 people every single day who are putting out music. That's the average amount of tracks being put onto Spotify
Oh,
alone
wow.
every single day. So setting yourself apart, and of course a person could go into like the marketing and the promotional aspect of that, but just on the basis of like what you're putting out, like what is making you stand out from, okay, so say there's 60,000 songs getting put out every single day. Say like 10% of them are Christian or inspirational. Okay, well, what sets you apart from that 10%? Like I can't do math in my head, so I have no idea what that number would be, but approximately.
Don't look to me.
Yeah. Oh, I wait, 6,000. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
10% of 60,000 would be 6,000, I think. Yeah. Oh, look at us. Okay.
Let us just say approximately, just to be safe,
Yeah.
approximately.
That nobody like be using a calculator right now because that's bad.
Yeah.
Approximately, what is setting you apart from the approximately 6,000 are Christian songs that are getting put out every day. You know, is your song rooted in truth? Is your song um is it true? Like that's my biggest thing. Is it true? Are you writing something and putting it out there just for the sake of writing something and putting it out there? What's your
Yeah,
motive? Are you trying to get famous? Are you trying to go viral? Because that those things, that undercurrent, you can feel it in the music coming out.
that
If
is
you're
absolutely true. That
yes,
is true.
if you're putting music out to inspire people and to lift people up and to walk beside them through their best and worst moments and to just share the gospel in its truest form and just be with people. If that's your goal, that also comes through on your music as well. And out of all of the people putting out music, are you going to be like the first person who's just trying to get famous and viral, go viral, or are you going to be the second person that's just trying to minister? Because I do think that, like you know, agreed, like it's just this thing that you feel. There's so
Yep.
many songs out there. How many of them like just get you? I don't know, but for me, there's not a lot. And the ones that are out there that do, you actually feel it. Like you feel it in everything from the very starting note to like the first word that they sing. It's just like you feel it. There's something about it.
That is true. That's true. And I think a lot of that connection comes from the level of your spirituality. Because
Mm,
not everybody is like spiritually intelligent. So not everybody's gonna be able to connect with certain things. They're like, oh, I like this, this jam is so nice.
yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's so true. It's so true.
But what advice would you have given someone that wants to venture in your type of music, doesn't know, where to start, but they're so inspired by doing the type of music that you're doing?
Hmm. I think I don't think I've ever like given this advice before because I don't I think I'm just starting to now see the value in it, but I would suggest getting a mentor. Like it's hard because there's so much noise out there in even just the Christian music, if you want to call it an industry. Um it's hard to know where to even start without somebody that kind of walks beside you. I have made some super, super, super costly mistakes early on. And, you know, on the flip side of the same coin, I made some incredible relationships with people who walked me through some huge decisions and prayed with me and, you know, were just a text or a phone call away at any time. They helped me grow as a writer. Like one person in particular I can think of is Charity Gale. Her and I have been friends for, oh man, 10 years maybe? Yeah, about that, maybe a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And she, man, that girl has prayed for me so many times. And she has always been so supportive. And she was always been a text away for like answering literally anything music related. And I think if I didn't have her, you know, and a few select other people, I just don't think I'd be where I am today. I think I'd still be just trying to do it in my own strength and I don't know, I feel like I'd be a mess. So having a
Yeah,
mentor would probably be my number one piece of advice. And once you have that person that's kind of in your corner praying with you, helping you make, you know, thoughtful decisions and just like walking you through, I think that you should be able to conquer pretty much anything that gets flown at you, for sure.
that's true. And I think that ties in a lot with even support system.
Mm, totally.
So thank you for being a part of this podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, I'm so happy it worked out. I feel like you and I could talk for hours.
Yes, but I mean, of course, there are other times that I can invite you on to speak on other topics and even your music, because of course, with doing the production, I have to put in your songs and your visuals.
Oh,
So
well,
yes,
I love that. Well, thank you. This is so
yes,
great. I am super excited for everything you're doing too. This is such a
thank
great
you.
podcast. When everything around is crumbling, you call me on the waves and calm the sea. You are peace, you are hope. When I have drifted far away from home, I know that you'll be with